They told you that caring is strength, that showing emotion makes you noble, that being vulnerable is what makes you human. But that's not strength, that's exposure, and exposure gets exploited. What no one told you is that the more you care, the more they can control you. From childhood, you were conditioned to seek approval, to worry about how others see you, to prove yourself, to apologize for your intensity. And in doing so, you handed your power away without even realizing it. You thought being emotionally available would bring you connection, but it brought you anxiety, emotional exhaustion, mental instability. Niccolo Machiavelli would laugh at this modern addiction to being liked. He understood something most people still can't face. Power doesn't come from being emotional. It comes from mastering emotion. When you care too much, they poke your wounds. When you react, they escalate. When you try to win their validation, they withhold it. Caring gives them the lever, and you become predictable, weak, manipulable. The cold art of not caring isn't cruelty, it's strategy. It's choosing to be silent where others scream. It's walking away where others chase. It's watching them try to provoke you and giving them nothing. And in that nothing, you become untouchable. Say it in the comments right now. I owe no one an emotional explanation. Because the truth is simple. If you want to win this game, you must stop caring about how you're seen and start focusing on how you're remembered. Number 1, caring makes you predictable. Predictability makes you weak. If they can predict you, they can control you. That's the brutal truth. And nothing makes a man more predictable than caring too much. When people know what you react to, they know exactly how to manipulate you. Your silence becomes rare. Your presence becomes cheap. You become easy to read, easy to corner, easy to break. Every sigh, every over-explanation, every desperate text exposes something deeper. Your emotional need to be seen, understood, accepted. And that need, that's the chain. That's the leash they tug when they want control. But Machiavelli didn't live by emotion. He lived by leverage. He knew that true strength isn't shown in how loud you cry. It's shown in how quietly you watch. When you're unshaken by disrespect, when you're unaffected by praise, when no one can figure out what gets to you because nothing does, that's when you become dangerous. The person who doesn't flinch wins. The one who doesn't chase attracts. And the one who doesn't care controls. This is the level where you stop reacting like a victim and start behaving like a weapon. Say it in the comments right now. My silence is my power. Because once they stop being able to predict you, they stop being able to use you. Number 2, emotional investment is the setup for manipulation. The more emotionally invested you are, the easier it is to manipulate you. That's why they rush to get you attached. They'll praise you early, they'll open up fast, they'll show vulnerability, not because they trust you, but because they want you to trust them. It's a setup. The moment your emotions are involved, logic dies. And once logic is gone, power follows. You stop asking questions. You start making excuses. You begin to justify red flags just because you feel connected. That's how they win. Not by force, but by making you care. Machiavelli understood that emotions cloud judgment. He said a ruler must know how to be both man and beast, logical when it's time to rule, emotionless when it's time to protect the throne. In today's world, your throne is your mental stability, and you defend it by removing emotional bait. That means no overexposure, no compulsive oversharing, no reactions when provoked. You move like a strategist, not a servant to your feelings. Because the more someone can trigger you, the more power they hold over you. And the more you care about being understood, the less you'll be able to understand the game. Say it in the comments. I feel nothing. I calculate everything. Because in this world, feelings don't protect you. Detachment does. Number 3, the power of strategic indifference. Indifference is not weakness. It's not apathy. It's power, carefully concealed. When you master the cold art of not caring, you don't become numb, you become selective. You choose where your energy goes. You choose who earns your reaction. Most people waste their lives reacting to every insult, every opinion, every shift in someone's tone. They bleed energy for people who wouldn't even flinch if they fell. That's not strength, that's slavery. Machiavelli knew that rulers who react emotionally are easily manipulated. The moment people know what offends you, what excites you, what you need from them, they hold leverage. But when you become indifferent, you break their grip. They don't know where you stand. They don't know what you want. And that mystery, that unsettles them. It forces them to guess, adapt, overthink, while you remain unmoved, watching in silence. Strategic indifference isn't about being disconnected from life. It's about being untouchable by nonsense. When someone tries to guilt you, you don't explain. When someone disrespects you, you don't chase clarity. You simply withdraw what they wanted most, your emotional presence. That is the most brutal response. Not anger, not revenge, but indifference. Silence backed by self-respect. Because in the end, people aren't used to being ignored. They're used to reactions. They feed off them. But when you give them nothing, they unravel, and you rise. Say it again in the comments. My indifference is my revenge. Because the game isn't about how much you care. It's about how well you can control who gets to feel like they matter. Number 4, how to emotionally detach without losing your mind. Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't act like a fool because you feel. That's the difference between weakness and strategy. Most people confuse emotional suppression with emotional detachment. That's why they burn out. Suppression is when you feel something and shove it down. Detachment is when you feel it, recognize it, control it, and choose not to act on it. One is pressure, the other is power. Machiavelli didn't say you shouldn't have emotions. He said a ruler must learn to act against them. That means feeling anger, but choosing not to react. Feeling disappointment, but refusing to fold. It's not about being robotic. It's about being dominant over your inner world. Because once you're in control of what goes on inside, nobody can shake you from the outside. So, how do you detach in real time? First, observe your triggers. Every time someone offends you, delays you, ghosts you, insults you, pressures you, stop. Don't react. Just watch. Let the feeling rise, but don't let it run. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone access to your emotional state. Second, interrupt the story. When your mind starts spinning stories like, they did this because they don't respect me, or they ignored me because I'm not enough, cut it. These thoughts don't belong to a strategist. They belong to a slave of perception. Replace them with, interesting, noted. Now let's focus. You're not here to decode disrespect. You're here to build control.
Third, vanish without guilt. If someone crosses the line, you don't owe them an explanation, a warning, or a final goodbye. You just leave. That's power. And trust me, silence echoes louder than any speech. When someone wrongs you and you don't even blink, they remember that forever. Fourth, focus on mission, not emotion. The reason most people stay emotionally entangled is because they have nothing stronger than the emotion. But when you have purpose, everything else becomes noise.
A man without purpose will be ruled by his feelings. A man with purpose will use his feelings but never bow to them. Ask yourself, is this situation helping me dominate my purpose or draining it? If it's draining, it dies. Fifth, practice emotional minimalism. You don't need to talk about everything. You don't need closure. You don't need to be seen. You just need to stay sharp. People who try to pull you into emotional chaos are terrified of your silence, because silence means you're operating in logic, not weakness. And logic, that's Machiavelli's battlefield. The truth is, emotional detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing that caring too deeply about the wrong people, the wrong problems, and the wrong moments will cost you your focus, your edge, your life. You detach not because you're heartless, but because your heart is too powerful to be handled carelessly. Say it with clarity in the comments. I don't chase closure. I control exposure. Let it be known, you're no longer available for emotional manipulation. You're not here to be understood. You're here to become a weapon. Because when you stop responding emotionally, you stop being readable. And when you stop being readable, you start becoming feared. Number 5, emotionlessness is power in social warfare. In a world obsessed with validation, the man who doesn't react wins. While everyone else is chasing status, attention, apologies, and recognition, the one who sits still, calculating in silence, owns the room. That's not detachment, that's dominance. And it's not a mindset you're born with. It's a weapon you forge, one cold decision at a time. Every group you enter, every conversation you're part of, is a subtle war for power. People size you up not by your appearance, but by how emotionally reactive you are. Do you flinch when challenged? Do you over-explain when questioned? Do you seek approval when ignored? They're always testing, silently, subconsciously, for weakness. And most fail instantly because most can't handle being misunderstood. Most can't tolerate silence. Most beg to be seen. But Machiavelli warned, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. That fear doesn't come from violence. It comes from stillness, from being unreadable, from being emotionally unavailable to manipulation. When someone insults you and you show no change in your tone, you win. When someone tries to provoke you and you answer with silence, they crumble. Not because you said something powerful, but because you said nothing at all. Emotionlessness confuses the average person. They're used to reactions. They're trained to control others through guilt, drama, and emotional bait. But when they cast the bait and you don't bite, you flip the script. Suddenly, they start chasing your approval. They start doubting their control. They become insecure in the presence of your indifference. You must learn this. The one who cares less always controls more. That doesn't mean being cruel. It means being controlled. It means knowing that power belongs to the one who can stay calm in chaos, silent under pressure, and emotionally neutral in storms designed to break. You want to dominate social interactions? Do less, speak less, reveal less, watch everything. Speak only with purpose. And when you speak, speak from a position of calm logic, not emotional reaction. Emotional people chase outcomes. Strategic people observe them. Emotional people beg for understanding. Strategic people collect data. And in every interaction, the quiet mind always wins.
Because once people realize they can't get a rise out of you, they stop trying to dominate you. You remove yourself from the emotional chessboard. They have no move. And that's what makes you untouchable. When someone insults you, and you nod. When someone ghosts you, and you don't even blink. When someone tries to guilt you, and you walk away mid-sentence. Not because you're angry, but because they no longer matter. That is power they can't match, because it's internal. That's how rulers move. That's how ghosts haunt the weak. And that's how Machiavellian power is maintained. Not through words, but through silence enforced by presence. Say it in the comments right now. I am unreadable. I am unshakable. Let the world know you no longer play emotional games. You play psychological warfare, and you play to win. Because emotion makes you visible, but indifference, that makes you unstoppable. Number 6, guard your energy like a fortress. Coldness is the gate. Time is currency. Energy is wealth. Attention is leverage. And yet most people spend all three like fools. They give their time to people who drain them, their energy to arguments that go nowhere, their attention to games they were never invited to win. And then they wonder why they feel broken, angry, used. It's because they never learned one critical rule. What you give emotion to, you empower. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't waste his strength on what didn't serve the strategy. He didn't try to convince the unworthy, argue with the ignorant, or defend himself against fools. He knew that every drop of attention he gave was a form of payment, and he paid only where it built power. That's the lesson most men never learn. You don't just become emotionally detached for the sake of appearances. You do it to protect your fortress, your mind, your mission, your peace. Because every time you react emotionally, someone else is directing your energy. They bait you into conversations that lead nowhere. They trigger you just to see you lose control. They pretend to misunderstand just to make you explain. And you fall for it every time. But not anymore. From this point forward, you treat your attention like a weapon. You respond less, you reveal less, you leave people confused on purpose. If someone disrespects you, you vanish. If someone tries to bait you, you smile and walk away. No reaction, no follow-up, no explanation. That's not weakness, that's control. And in a world full of noise, control is the rarest form of power. Here's what happens when you become emotionally cold. People start to hesitate before crossing you. Your silence becomes a wall. Your indifference becomes a signal. They begin to understand you're not the one to be toyed with. You're not loud, but you're final. You're not dramatic, but you're deadly. And they feel it. Even if they can't explain it, they feel it. You carry a presence that says, if I cut you off, it's permanent. That's what Machiavelli meant when he spoke of cruelty used wisely. Not violence, not chaos, but a calculated absence that hits harder than any emotional outburst ever could. A presence that makes people regret losing your attention, not just your words. You become less accessible, less readable, more powerful. You must understand this clearly. The emotionally cold man isn't bitter. He's focused. He's not numb. He's disciplined. He's not angry. He's just done explaining himself to people who don't deserve the conversation. And because of that, he walks lighter. He sleeps deeper. He plans sharper. He rises higher.
He becomes the man others whisper about, not because he brags, but because his silence echoes louder than their noise. Coldness is not about being unkind, it's about being unbreakable. You've been taught your whole life that kindness means being available, that strength means always talking things out, that real men are emotionally open and vulnerable at all times. But that's how they kept you weak. That's how they made you easy to manipulate. Because a man who is emotionally open to everyone is vulnerable to anyone. Let me tell you what strength really looks like. Strength is walking away without saying a word. Strength is letting someone feel your absence without giving them closure. Strength is not needing to argue, not needing to beg, not needing to be liked. It's being okay with being misunderstood because you understand the game, and that's enough. And when people see that you can't be moved emotionally, they begin to self-regulate. They start choosing their words carefully. They step lighter because now you hold the frame. You own the tempo. And if they want to be in your world, they have to play by your rules or they get cut out of it entirely. This is how you take your power back in silence. Stop explaining yourself to people who've already decided to misunderstand you. Stop arguing with people who don't even listen. They just wait to speak. Stop wasting your breath on relationships that feed on your attention but starve your purpose. Coldness filters. It shows you who really values you and who only valued access to your energy. It creates space, and in that space, you get sharper, you get stronger, you become more dangerous. Let them think you're heartless. Let them say you've changed. Let them complain about your silence. That's what weak people do when they realize they can't manipulate you anymore. Stay focused, stay disciplined, stay distant. Because the closer people feel to your emotions, the more entitled they become to your peace. And once you let them in, it's hard to shut the door. So don't open it for just anyone. Don't explain what you've evolved beyond. Don't try to make people understand the standards they were never built to meet. Let them talk, let them assume, let them wonder what you're thinking. The truth is, you're not thinking about them at all. Say it in the comments right now. If it drains me, it doesn't deserve me. Let the world know. Your attention is earned, not owed. Your time is sacred, and your emotions no longer on public display. You've gone cold, and that's exactly how you rise. Number 7, when you stop caring, they start obsessing. Here's the paradox. The less you care, the more they chase. When you go quiet, they get loud. When you disappear, they panic. And when you stop reacting, they start spiraling. That's not a coincidence, it's psychology. People are addicted to validation, and when they don't get it from you, they crave it even more, especially if they once had it. Emotional detachment triggers obsession. When you stop giving people predictable emotional feedback, they become uncertain, and in human psychology, uncertainty breeds addiction. They start replaying old conversations, rereading old messages, questioning themselves. Did I say something wrong? Why haven't they responded? Do they hate me now? And the longer you stay silent, the louder their mind gets. That's power. Niccolo Machiavelli knew that the moment you pull away without warning, you create a vacuum, a void, and people will do almost anything to fill that void. Not because they love you, not because they care about you, but because you became a mirror they can no longer control. And that loss of control eats at them. You don't create obsession through attention, you create it through absence. You don't become respected by being constantly available. You become unforgettable by being scarce, silent, and cold. Not to hurt them, but to protect you. This is psychological warfare. You are not here to be emotionally generous with people who don't value your energy. You are here to build leverage, and silence is leverage. Say it in the comments. I give nothing for free, not even my attention. Because once you learn to stop caring, the same people who dismissed you will be haunted by your silence. Let them wonder. Let them overthink. Let them chase a version of you they'll never get again. Emotional distance builds long-term power. Most people trade their emotional energy for for crumbs of approval. But the Machiavellian man plays the long game. He doesn't need applause. He's not addicted to being liked. He's calculating, always thinking 10 moves ahead. And the one thing that gives him consistent advantage is distance. Emotional distance is not withdrawal, it's positioning. When you detach from needing to be accepted, you stop negotiating your value. You start observing. You start choosing. You gain leverage because you're not emotionally tied to outcomes. You're not desperate to win people. You're focused on winning power. In negotiations, the calmest man wins. In relationships, the one who's willing to walk away has control. In life, the person who can move in silence without emotional chaos is the one everyone ends up watching. That's the long game. And most never master it because they're too attached to being seen right now.
But you're different. You don't speak to be heard. You speak when it matters. You don't react to prove a point. You act to protect your peace. And that emotional discipline that makes you dangerous in the best way. People respect what they can't easily access, and they fear what they can't predict. Machiavelli knew the game wasn't about temporary affection. It was about lasting influence. Not being loved today, but being remembered for how coldly, strategically, and powerfully you moved when emotion tried to pull you in. The people who try to test your boundaries, provoke you, or guilt you, they can only win if you react. So don't. Your silence is a slow burn. Your detachment is a long-term punishment. They won't feel it now, but over time, they will. And you'll be free. The final evolution. Say it proudly in the comments. I trade emotions for elevation. Because that's what this is. A shift from reaction to reign. From approval seeking to untouchable. Number 9. The final evolution, from emotion to empire. This is where you rise, not by becoming louder, not by proving anything to anyone, but by withdrawing everything they used to feed on. Your emotions, your reactions, your energy. You are no longer their fuel. You are no longer their mirror. You are the wall, the silence, the presence that cannot be shaken. Because now you understand the game. You understand that in a world full of emotionally fragile people, the one who controls his inner world controls the outer one. You understand that silence is not weakness, it is calculation. Detachment is not loneliness, it is leverage. You no longer need to be heard. You don't need to be validated. You don't even need to be liked. You need one thing, power over yourself. Because once you master that, everything else becomes secondary. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. Let them misunderstand your silence, your absence, your refusal to play emotional games. That's fine. That's the price of evolution. That's the price of becoming a man they can't manipulate. Machiavelli didn't seek to be liked. He sought to rule. He studied weakness so he could rise above it. And now, so do you. You are no longer the man who explains himself to everyone. You are no longer the man who overthinks texts, replays conversations, or needs emotional closure. You have exited the cycle. You are now a strategist, cold, clear, and calculating. They don't need to understand. They need to feel your absence. They need to realize you were the asset, not the option. So from this point forward, live by this code. If it doesn't build your power, it doesn't get your presence. If it doesn't protect your peace, it doesn't get your energy. And if it doesn't respect your silence, it loses access to your world. Say it one last time in the comments.
Emotion doesn't rule me. I rule everything. And if you're ready to become the coldest, calmest, most untouchable version of yourself, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this isn't motivation. This is war, and it starts within.